Okay, mes amis, my friends, the first tutorial that I have is titled Learning Chess, Naming the Pieces 01. This tutorial that I'm teaching right now is called Learning Chess, Moving the Pieces, so 02. So today we're going to learn how the pieces in chess move. Where do they go? How far can they go on the table, and so on. Okay, we start from the front row here. You see this front row? That's the row that has all the 8 pawns. Remember I told you that we use 8 pawns in each side of the board, 8 pawns for the whites, 8 pawns for the blacks, and they go in the second row. In chess, this one here, when you the rows start where the white pieces are. So this is the first row here. See, from left to right, this is the first row, and we're gonna learn in another tutorial the alphanumeric naming of every single square, and that's for people that playing computers. The computers board usually have an alphanumeric identification. So we're gonna learn later on that, but for the time being, right now, let's suffice to say that this is the first row. Where the pawns are the second row. This one here, in front of the pawns, the third, and so on. And there are 8 rows until we get to the black here. This is the 8 rows of the board, where all the officers of the black pieces are. That's the 8 row. So the pawns, they only can move forward if they don't have any piece blocking them. So what I mean for a piece blocking them, it can be, let's try this pawn here, the pawn in front of the bishop, which is called alfil in Spanish. Okay, this piece here is the piece in front of the alfil. So this piece at the beginning of the game, it can move here. It's free. It moves 1 space ahead. It cannot move 2 spaces, 3 spaces. It just moves 1 space if that space is available. If there is any piece, either a white piece or a black piece in front of it, that pawn cannot move here. So this is the way pawns move, one square at a time. They move forward 1 square at a time, 1 square at a time. And to be able to move 1 square at a time, they must have the field free of other pieces blocking them, either whites, from the same side, the same army, or from the opposite army, the opposite side, which are the black ones. All these pawns here, they can move one. Right now, you're starting again. You can move one here, one here, and later the the black pieces reply, and then you can move another pawn and another pawn if you want to, another pawn 1 piece ahead. Okay, and so that's the way the pawns move. Another way that pawns can move. The pawns only can take the adversary pieces in diagonal. Like if I had a black pawn here, if I had this pawn, white pawn, let's say right here, after the second move, and I had this black pawn here, if it is convenient for the player utilizing the white pieces, this pawn here can take this pawn in diagonal. If this black pawn were in front of it cannot take it. It's just blocked. It has no way of moving. only if the pawn is on the left side here in this square right here. You see the white here and the black here. He can take it and take that position. And once the white take that pawn is out of circulation, it's out of the game. The game is over for that pawn. That black pawn, that pawn has to be put aside, away from the board. So, and the white pawn takes the black on the right side, right in this diagonal here, a small diagonal, is out of circulation. So the pawns move one space at a time in front of them if they don't have any other piece blocking them. So they can move one piece, one square in front of them, just one square at a time. And if they had a piece in diagonal to them, and just not in front, in the other side, if it is convenient for the player, he can take that piece using his white pawn, and they come here and just take whatever piece might be there. It can be a rook, it can be a queen, it can be whatever. Any piece that is there, any pawn can take it. Any white pawn can take any black piece that is on the side, but it cannot take a piece that is in front of it. Okay, so that's the movement that pawns can have. Just move ahead of them if the square is available, is free, or if they have a opponent piece on the right side or left side of them, they can take that piece and take a position of that square. Okay, those are the 8 pawns for the white and the 8 pawns for the blacks. They had this movement on the 64 square board that we use in chess. 64 square. Now we go to and this is starting the game. This is the only pieces that can move in the front. The pawns can move. The other piece that can move is the knights, what they call caballos in Spanish. No, the knights. These are the knights. See, the knights occupy the right square from the rook that is in the left, the almost left part of the board. So this rook is right here, and they have the knight next to them, and on the other side it is same. They have the rook that is in the almost part of the right, the last square, which later on when we learn the alphanumeric names for every single square, this square here where this rook is, it will be 1H. 1 because the row is number 1. All this row here is number 1 row, and an H because it's in the H column. 8 columns from the left. The columns are starting to be counted. These are the columns, the one that go from the white to the black. All these lines are columns, and all these lines here are rows. So there are 8 rows and 8 columns in the 64 squares of the chessboard. So I say the knights are the other pieces that can move when we are starting a game, when we're just commencing to make the move, the play. So the knights, they have a strange motion. They move like an L. They can move 3 squares in front of them and 1 square to the left or to the right. Or if they're just in a column, they can move 3 squares to the left or to the right, and 1 square up or down. So this knight here, the movement that a knight can do is just he can jump on the top of pawns and on the top of any other piece, any officer, like rooks, bishops, the king, the queen, and the knights and the other knight, there are the officers. There are the main pieces in chess. So the knight has the option. He can jump. You see here. Okay, he can jump atop this pawn that is in front of it. So he can jump, and he don't take position of that square, which is the third row. He just has to go right or left because he plays in L. This is 3 square, or the one to the right or to the left, make it like an L in the alphabet. So he can go here, and he can go here. Now, if that square is occupied by one of his own pawns, one of the people from his own side of the chess game, he cannot jump to that position. That position is occupied for one of his own. He can only jump to that position, like here. If he wants to take this horse, this knight wants to take this position, this pawn here in this position, which is the column A, and this is the third row. So if this knight that is right now in the row 1 in the column B, he can go from the column the B position that he has occupied here, right here. He can jump and take this pawn that is in this position. He can take it out, and once he takes that pawn, the knight occupies that position here, and it stays there until we move it again. We decide to move it to make another maneuver in chess. So knights can move in L, 3 ahead, 3 in front, or 3 back, and 1 to the side, 1 square to the side. That's in L position. And in this game started, the player can start the game, but not touching the pawns. They leave the pawns in that position they occupy on the second row. Instead, he can move either knight. Either this knight here, he can move it here, or he can move it here. That's the only 2 places he can go. Right here, or right there. That's the only place is free in the board that the knight can do by jumping over a pawn. So occupy this. And the same on this side. If the player decided to move the right knight that is in the rest initial position, he just can go ahead and move the knight the same way. This knight only can go 3 ahead and 1 to the left, or 3 in front and 1 to the right. He cannot go in L to the other places, because the other places that he can go to will be the pawn that is in front of the king, and that pawn is a white pawn, and the knight is a white knight, and the knight can occupy a square that is being occupied by his own people, by one of his pawns. So this knight here and the one on the left, they can go in front, just beginning the game. He can go in front 3 spaces, and then go to the right. So the move is in L, and so is the one on the right side of the whites. At this point, if we move the knight, either one, the one on the left or the one on the right, and if we don't keep the pawns, none of the pawns are moved, all the other pieces in chess are blocked. The other pieces remaining here are now the opponent team has to play now. I move this knight here, so the opposite side has to play. They have to do something, move a pawn or move one of the 2 knights. So once I reply, my pieces are blocked except for this rook. This rook left the rooks move in columns and in rows. So they move to horizontally to the player, okay, so facing the chessboard, or they move ahead, and they can move all the way down 8 spaces or 8 square if they're free, if the squares are free. But if they have one of his own pieces, like this rook here, he cannot move to this. He cannot move atop this. Knights are the only one allowed to do that, move atop a piece of their own or the opposing team. So this rook is blocked in this, which is the A. This is the A column. So it cannot move there anywhere. It's blocked. But instead, he can move to this place that his own knight left. So he can move one space here. So if there is not this pawn here, this white pawn here, or if there is an opposite piece there, like this black pawn, the rook only can take that piece. He cannot move 8 spaces. It just can't move 8 spaces once the whole column right here is free. So he can go all the way to the A place here, which is the 8 number 8 and the alphabet letter A. So he can move here. But starting the game is blocked. Starting the game, he cannot go anywhere unless he had, like right here, a free space to move. And the same, he had all this space, all these pieces here were out. No other piece were occupying here, or they were just a piece, the opposite team here, in any of this side here, on the first row. That rook can move and can move all the way to the right, or move to where the opponent team piece is, and take it. Once he takes the piece, he takes position on that square, and the opponent piece is out of the game, so it goes out. So that's the motion for the rook. Now, right now, nobody else can move here. The way the game is right now, nobody can move. The alfiler, they move in diagonals. That's the rooks, as I say now, they move in columns. Okay, and they can move in rows. So they can go in a column, which is the vertical line, vertical to the player, or they can go in the rows, which are the vertical square in relation to the body of the player that is in front of them. But the bishops, they cannot move at all. These alfiler bishops, these bishops cannot move at all. This is blocked. So in most games, they had the player, whether it be like a greeny player and the person that is just playing chess, but it's not an expert or anything, or if it's a champion, chess champion, they can have the option of starting the game by moving one of the central pawns. The central pawns are these two here. In front, one is in front of the king, and the other central pawn is in front of the queen. So these two pawns here are the central pawns. So one player can. I say before that the pawns only can move one square at a time, but in openings. Pawns can move, starting the game, they can move 2 squares in front of them. So this is the white move, the first move that the white pieces are doing. This pawn here can go 2 squares in front, one square and 2 squares. So you can go here in the center. Usually the other player reply with the same. So move is to 2 square, the pawn that he has in front of the king, he can move in front, and that moment is blocked. This pawn white, as say before, they cannot eat anything, they cannot take anything that is in front of them, and vice versa. This black pawn here cannot take this piece. They only can attack each other if one is on this side. So this white pawn here can take this black pawn when it's his turn to play, or this black pawn can take this white pawn. But right here they are both blocked. They cannot go. In the future games, they're gonna be like in the future move. If they're gonna be 5 moves ahead and they're still in that position, they cannot move at all. They stay there until the conditions change. So once the player, the player with the white pieces, move his pawn, either of his pawn, the one in front of the king or the one in front of the queen here. Once he moves that pawn, let's say he moved this pawn, the one in front of the king. Now the bishop can move. The bishop play, as I said before, they go in diagonals. And the white bishop on the left goes in black diagonals. It goes in white diagonals, and the white bishop on the right, this one here, next to the queen on the right, on the left of the bishop. If this pawn were move one space, and in the opening the pawn don't have to move 2 spaces, but some players, according to the game development they want, they can move the pawn to places. But you can move the pawn at the beginning. Ignore that you have the right to move it to a square. You can ignore that right and just move it 1 if that's convenient for you, to make up your game, to plan your game strategy, so you can move it 1 piece. Once you do that, then the bishop in the white square here next to the king on the right, on his right, and the knight on his right, and the queen on his left, he has this white diagonal open. So this bishop in the next move, he can go here. In the next move, he can go all the way in this diagonal, and he can go 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, and the diagonal dies here in the first column. And if he goes there, he's in big trouble because this pawn can take it. Okay, so that's for the bishops. The queen cannot jump like the horse do. The queen has one of his pieces blocking her. He cannot move at all that piece. The queen is the most important piece in chess, and she plays like she can play like the pawns 1 or 2 spaces at the beginning of the game, or many spaces. He doesn't have any piece blocking her of his own. If he has a piece blocking her of the opponent team, she can take that piece of the opponent team and take possession of that square. So the queens, once they are out, they can move like bishops. They can move in diagonal, black or white. In this case, white. In this case, it will be the black diagonal. So the queens can move in black or white diagonals, depending where they are. If they are in a white square, they only can move in the diagonal is white. Speaking in diagonals. Now the queen has the option to move like a rook. So the queen can move all the way from one square on the right. If she needs to, she can go to the square on the square on the right will be the 1/8. It will be that will be 1, 2, 3, 4. That will be the 4/8 is the 4/8 square in the alphabetic nomenclature used in chess for the board. Every single square in the board has a number assigned to it, and that's not important when you're playing with friendly games. The nomenclature is only important when you're just reading books, and in the books are stating the move. In the books, you don't see a player moving anything because you're reading letters. So for books, when you're reading a magazine or a book talking about chess game, the nomenclature is important because they're gonna tell you if you move from this square here to which is will be the 3/8 position. This one where the king is now, the 3/8 1. This is the 1/8. The second one where this pawn is the 2/8, and this one here the 3/8. So she's gonna move from the 3/8 to, let's say, this one here, this diagonal here. That one is in the one. This position here is in the 4B position. B because this knight here is B, and where this knight here, the 1B position. The position in front where this pawn is the 2B position, and this one here, this square here, the 3B position, and this one here, the 4B position. So in this alphanumeric, I'm going to have a whole tutorial about the alphanumeric nomenclature used to name all the squares, the 64 squares in the chess game. So that will be the topic for another video, another tutorial. But this is just to give you an idea of this. So the queens can move, as I said before, they can move in column, which is these horizontal lines here, or these in rows, these horizontal rows here, and this one here are called columns, the one vertical to your body, so they can move they can move in diagonal. The queen has the greatest value. Also, there is a value on every single piece. It's like a ranking, no? The value is like a ranking. Like the pawns are considered to be one, to be worth 1 point, whatever you go on the pawn is worth £1. This pawn is $1. This pawn is whatever. This is worth one. The rooks they assign a value of about 7 points. So the value of a rook will be like 7 times a pawn, and the knights are like 5.5. The same with the bishop, and the queen is the most valuable of all of them because that's the piece that can move in diagonal. The only move that the queen cannot do is the knight move in L. She cannot move in L, but she has the other move that the other pieces have. She has the move for the pawns. She can move one space, either in diagonal like the pawns, or move several spaces, move several. If she goes in vertical, can move several rows in one column and occupy whatever space is free that is not occupied for one of her own team, any piece of her own team. So that's the queen move, and that's how she can move in columns, in diagonals, and in rows. She can move. In most games, once the queen is captured or taken out of the game, most players panic because that's the most important piece for many players. And later on, in more advanced tutorials, I will tell you how a game can can be won without a queen. So there are many places, many instances in which game there in which a player lost his queen. Still, he won the game because he had other pieces. He got either more pawns or combination of more pawns and rooks and knights, and the other player just have a queen and rook, and so. But that will be a topic for the future. For the time being, let's suffice that the way the queen move, okay, is the most important piece, and she's only trying to defend her man, which is the right here the king. The one I showed you in the last tutorial has like a cross atop his hat or whatever, a crown. So it has like that's the king. So now we have studied how the rook move. They move in columns, and they can only move when they don't have a piece of their own blocking them. So they can move the one. The knight can jump and move 3 squares in front of him, or 3 squares on the side, in the column side, and 1 square to the front or to the rear. So the knights can move in L. They cannot move to a square that is occupied for one of their own. So they have the square has to be either free or occupied by the piece of the opponent team. So the bishop move, when they had available the diagonal, available means that no piece of their own is blocking them. So this is all in this tutorial for the time being, and in the next tutorials we'll refresh all this, so it be the knowledge about all the pieces, where they move and where their values are, be inculcated and learned by you. So I will have another video soon, I guess, like in the next 24 hours. And until I talk to you again, have a good time. Bye bye.
Enormous